Okay, I'd like to call the Joint Special School Building Committee to order. We're at the Nashua High School North Lecture Hall. It's Thursday, December 21st, 2023, at 7 p.m. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Dowd,
Present.
Alderwoman Wilshire, Alderwoman Clee is not here. Alderwoman Timmons.
Here.
Alderman Sullivan.
Here.
Miss Raymond, not here. Miss Lampier.
Here.
Bishop is here. Miss Gilio.
Here.
And Mr. Claffey.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. If the clerk would please read the prayer, and if Ms. Lampier would lead us in the pledge.
I will do that. Just to note, Miss Raymond just walked in at 7:01. Almighty God, we have the high honor and serious duty to manage the educational affairs of our beloved city. Fill us, O God, with a spirit of unity and understanding that enables us to face our multiple problems with a serene mind, justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will always be for the betterment and greater happiness of all of our fellow citizens. So help us God. Amen.
Flag of the United States of America. Republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty, justice. Okay, if there are no objections, I'll waive the reading of the minutes of the November 16th, 2023 meeting and place them on file. Marks by chairman. Thank you, everyone. I know it was a challenge finding a parking space out there today. So the school is very busy. Remarks by school administration. Mario, do you want to?
Just want to continue to thank the teams. All the projects seems to be going along. So thank you to everyone on our sites and the administration for working cooperatively with them. And I just want to thank everybody and wish them happy holidays.
Came back to John. I wasn't going to forget.
Just note that in your package are the proposed meeting dates for 2024. Take a look at that and just let us know that all looks good to you, or let me know if there are any exceptions to it. Follow the usual procedure of the fourth Thursday of the month for the meetings, unless that happens to fall on a holiday or a school vacation week.
Yeah, I have the ones from City Hall. I just want to make sure they're the same. That after the meeting. All set, Sean?
All set.
Items for discussion and approval of invoices. We will start with the architect's report. Harriman.
Good evening, everyone. Jamie Willett with Harriman. I handed around a memorandum tonight that has kind of the highlights of our ongoing efforts. Starting over at Brian S. McCarthy School, that is continuing to go quite well. We are still reviewing questions that come from the field and an occasional submittal here and there. We were, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were on site architecturally doing a punch list of the area C. So that's kind of the 4-story section of the building with all the classrooms. And so that punch list is a good sign that progress is being made. That area is getting close to being able to be, quote unquote, ready. Obviously, the project doesn't turn over till this summer, but that area is getting close, which once that punch list is complete, I think we will be seeing furniture come in quite shortly here. So good news over there. And I'll note that the punch list, it was long only because there's a lot of rooms, but actually the amount of markups and findings were very, very minimal, and actually a very traditional punch list where you're just finding little paint nicks and things like that. So very, very happy to be part of that on this project. So nice work, Harvey team. We did hear recently from the kitchen director and the I think she's currently the manager of the Elm Street kitchen. They went over a tour over to the school, and they were able to put their eyes on the actual spaces being created. And From that walkthrough and discussion, there was some additional requests that came up to modify some of the spaces, or not spaces, but some of the layouts and some of the organization of the equipment inside the kitchen. So there's been some discussions ongoing, and so we're looking at reviewing those impacts and potentially doing some drawings to modify that stuff. And we're just trying to review it so it's the least impactful as possible. So just wanted to mention that. That's something we're kind of looking at right now, and if there's any major changes, we come back and discuss it with the group here. Over on Pennachuck Middle School, I have this back on here because there is some efforts with the dehumidification projects that you folks passed I think at the last meeting. So the dehumidification project is beginning to roll up, start with Harvey, and because of that, Harriman needs to come back and do some additional construction administration at that school. And so we've put a proposal together and submitted that to the school district. And I believe Alderman Dowd had already reviewed that and was able to approve that. And I think it was in your package tonight as well. So I'm not sure, Alderman Dowd, if that's something that needs to be vetted or if that's good to go.
Which thing are you talking about?
The construction, the additional services for the construction administration for the dehumidification project at Pennachuck.
Sign. Have PCCO to sign. All I have.
Okay.
But I think they have taken a look. I think we're all set. On these.
We did. We looked at the proposal. All looked fine. I think I neglected to include it in the package.
Oh, okay.
But we did say go ahead.
Okay.
Bring that in next month's package.
Sorry about that. And then, so we'll we're okay right now. There's no urgency on that. The work is just ramping up. Just started on Harvey's end, so we'll review that next month. And then over at Birch Hill and Main Dunstable, just continuing to follow that construction progress and coordinate any questions or submittals that are coming through from either Harvey or EI, and it's looking good over there. That's kind of all I have today.
Questions for Amy? All right. And we'll go into structure managers report. Harvey, Ken, or
Excuse me. I'll go first. Good evening, everybody. Ken Lemarier, Harvey Construction. I'll give you an update at the MacArthur Middle School, and then Brendan will run through Main Dunstable, Birch Hill. Before we jump in, Jamie mentioned the Pennachuck dehumidification project. So on our end, Brendan's got all the contracts issued. I believe they went out today. We started to see a lot of the key submittals come in. So Jamie mentioned the design services. So now that we're doing this little mini project, Jamie has to work with us to make sure that all the right things are being submitted upon so we can order the correct equipment. So that's kind of where things are at the moment. And then we'll be starting the work over there in April of 2024. So I think we've already had some internal discussions with Principal Falzarano and his staff to make sure that we can get into certain classrooms to make sure that we're not impacting. So the earlier we can start, the sooner we can turn the system. So that's kind of where things are. You'll start to see some slides on that work this spring once we get going. So jumping into actual construction right now, over at McCarthy Middle School. So starting at the exterior, so we're kind of picking away. The weather has been favorable, aside from Sunday and Monday's storm, but the site held up and is distributing water well. The third-party engineer who comes out after every rain event does all the inspections to make sure that our temporary stormwater protection plan is up to snuff. And I haven't received the report today, but the site does look great. We had a OAC meeting out there today. We have bi-weekly meetings with the client and with Harriman to discuss job progress, any issues and whatnot. So business as usual there. We're probably going to continue to do site work and miscellaneous utilities probably until maybe mid-January, and we'll probably have the site work contractor leave and then come back in the springtime when it's more favorable working conditions.
And then when you were there today, did you see that some of the trees in that windstorm got blown out of their holes? And
Yeah, so that'll just be something that we'll address
fortunately,
in
they're
the spring.
dormant, so
Hmm.
they probably need to be tied.
Building envelope wise is just kind of the exterior of the building is I'd say about 90% complete. Kind of working on a building A, which is kind of the main entrance area. Working on brick veneer. Sunshades are being installed along the outside of the building, and probably got another 4 or 5 weeks of work at the exterior of the building. And then in the springtime, we'll come back and start placing all the concrete walkways and the landscaping kind of closer to the school. Any questions on the exterior? The photo in the upper right-hand corner here, we've got our masonry being installed, so we have to heat it. So that's just kind of a fancy tent that we work inside of in the winter. Jumping into buildings C, B, and D, they're all kind of relatively in the same state. Jamie mentioned that the punch list is ongoing in building C. In our meeting today, we're working with Harriman to schedule the punch list for buildings B and D probably sometime in January, so they can either do them together or separately. But Jamie mentioned there's a lot of rooms, so we'd like to try to split them up different days. Final cleaning ongoing in building D right now, and just kind of shaking out miscellaneous doors and hardware kind of preferences, running through some kind of last second items with the school district to make sure that the functionality is what we want for the end user. So like Jamie said, small things that we're kind of working through in the field to make sure that we're turning over a final product that everybody wants.
Once all the furniture, then you're gonna be doing a final.
Correct. So the way that we bought it with our clean areas, we do a construction clean, which is kind of what you see right there. And then once the furniture is delivered in the spring, we'll come through and do one last final clean, and then Mr. Smith's team will come in and start waxing the floors in the summer and get everything nice and shiny for when students arrive. Building A is the kind of remaining area that has most of the heavy construction going. We will be finishing drywall in that section of building within the next month or so. So that's a big milestone for us to complete. So the views here, this photo in the upper left hand corner is a view from the top of the main stair in the cafe. The terrazzo that goes on the stair, part of it was installed this week. I wish I got a photo of that, but the photos just get so outdated so quick. So finishes are starting. You can see the wood slat ceilings going in the cafe. It's gonna be a nice space in there for the students. Gym equipment's gonna be coming. Most of it's installed, but we're gonna be kind of cleaning that out over the next month or so, and then kind of starting to do the flooring as well. Jamie mentioned that the kitchen equipment is coming in February. So we kind of looked at those items, those minor changes today, and we don't think that they're going to be a major issue. So we're just going to schedule some follow-up meetings to make sure that we're giving a productive space for when we turn it over. Any questions on McCarthy dates?
Hello, everybody. Brendan Orell, Assistant Project Manager, Harvey Construction. Should be the last time I show this slide for Birch Hill and Main Dunstable. So we're getting into this space. This is the cafeteria space. And as I've mentioned at the previous few meetings, we've had some minor finish items that needed to be completed in here. Some of the knee walls and heating elements along the windows. And then this bathroom sort of in the center of the screen there. And as Ken just pointed to in the bottom right-hand corner, we've kind of been plucking away on these items little by little. And now with the students sort of getting out for a few days. We're taking advantage of that opportunity and getting back to the cafeteria just to complete all of those remaining items. So a little bit of progress there, and as I said, should be the last time I show this slide. Another item to note there, so within the gymnasium, as I mentioned last meeting, we had worked with Mr. Smith's team just to install some sound panels over in Dunstable. We were able to work with Mr. Smith's team to do the same thing at Birch Hill. We received some really favorable feedback on that condition over at Main Dunstable. So just to ensure everybody's comfortable for the next 2 years or so, we're doing the same thing over at Birch Hill. Jumping into some of the interior updates. So a lot more exciting finishes to show on these images this time around. So now that a lot of the heavy construction has taken place, a lot of the bigger items, you know, the installation of the doors, frames, and hardware, the ceiling grid going in, the tile going into the bathrooms, the handrails going in, marker boards and tack boards. So, you know, we've started to get very heavily into the finish items, starting to get finish paint into these spaces. The lockers and cubbies have started to be installed over the previous few weeks, so just working through some items there. We've also started to populate some millwork. Some of the wardrobes, the teachers' wardrobes are in the top right there, as Ken's pointing out. And then as you can see, a lot of the finished flooring has started to populate in these spaces as well. So a lot of bright colors as the light fixtures get in there, it really brightens up the space, and it's really coming together. So there are, you know, a few items looming, forthcoming. So just some of the overhead inspections, so then we can flood out the acoustical ceilings, get all the nice white tiles in there and close it off. And then get the finish paint and then remove the temporary walls, which you can see in that center image. And that'll allow us to get that space turned over, provide plenty of time for the school district to move into that space over the month of February. Next slide, Ken. So a couple nice images of the exterior of Birch Hill. So as you can see, the two images kind of show the whole wraparound of this current phase and the entirety of the storefronts that were replaced. So if you recall, there was a PCO that was approved at a meeting a few months back, which enabled us to do a full replacement of those exterior storefront assemblies, in addition to the new precast sills, which you can see below. So it's really provided the exterior of the building with a really nice new finish look, really freshened up the exterior. I really think it looks really good. Some of the ongoing items we still have at this point are just the exterior door and hardware, and then also getting some of the finish paint applied to some of those surfaces as well, as long as weather has been permitting. And some of the forthcoming items would just be the caulking and the sealants and the final finish items. And then getting Jamie's team in there very early February to start doing their punch list, similar to what we're doing over at McCarthy, and just ensure we're providing that finished product that everybody's looking to see. And jump into the next slide, Ken. I'll hand it over to Matt here.
Good evening, Matt Smith with EEI. So we're working to get things buttoned up. As Brendan mentioned, we are getting a lot of the finishes above ceiling done. So our final inspections will be this coming week while the kids are out of there. So Harvey can get in there and start cleaning up those spaces and getting those ceilings flooded. We're also going to be, as Brendan mentioned, working in that calf area to button up some of the heating on those exterior walls where the new storefronts went in. So that'll get us out of that area completely. So things are moving forward and progressing. Ductwork's all tied in and back to the air handlers. The controls and electricians are in there now and tying everything in and getting all the sensors mounted within the mechanical space. So that's moving along well, and we're looking to get startup mid-January and get those running, get the air handlers running, and get those systems balanced out. So January should be a great month for us with the startup, the balancing, and then the commission, and being able to turn that space over during the February break. That's the big chunk of it. Like Brendan mentioned, showed, we got a lot of lights going in. We got fire alarm being tied in. So a lot of good progress over the last month. So
Questions? Yes.
I have a question, but I also just want to say I had the opportunity to go and see Birch Hill about 2 weeks ago. My son was volunteering there, and Miss T-Boom was kind enough to kind of show me around on not the part that's still under construction, but the part that's done. It was really quiet in the gym. They had a gym class going, and then the other 2, 3 classes were, having class, and it was like in the hallway there, you couldn't hear a thing, which I was really impressed with. I didn't think it was possible, but I think it was quieter there than it was when my kids went there years ago in the open classroom. So it's looking really nice. But my question was about earlier this week, Birch Hill had an issue with the portables and the propane. Was that resolved? Any lingering problems? I did not understand the email about off gassing.
So basically, the supplier for the propane did not deliver on time. We ran out of propane. When you do that, the units are looking for fuel, and that's where you get the smell that comes out. And that's purely all it was. It was just the tanks are running low, and the system was telling us, feed me. And by noontime that day, the supplier had come back, filled up those.
Great, thank you.
Any other? Okay. So next item is the small wares quote.
I will take care of that one. So our food service director is looking to replace, she refers to those small wares. So a lot of the, aside from the large equipment that we're purchasing through the project, this is all the small stuff, pots and pans and things that have worn out over the years through use at Elm Street. And carts for pushing food around, food pans, anything you can think of that goes into the kitchen. And she got went out for multiple quotes. She got responses from a couple of vendors, and the low bid was from a company called Alternate Sales in the amount of $10,100.66. And the package that contains all of what she's looking to purchase should be in your package. 2 quotes were provided, both very, very close. It was a good procedure.
Motion to approve.
Yes.
The amount again?
$10,100.66.
Need a motion to approve the small wares quote for Brian S. McCarthy School in the amount of $10,100.60. Yeah. Questions? Yes. Sullivan?
I would assume that, are there any differences in the quotes as far as, I see frying pan is a frying pan, one is one price, the other. Does the higher quote offer any other value-added services, long warranties or anything for the right?
No, they quote exactly the same material, same pot, same pan, same ladle, everything. And the difference in the 2 quotes was 10,100, the other one was 10,300. Couple $100 based on markup, I assume.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Greg? IT.
Good evening. I'm going to speak today about the Brian McCarthy.
Oh, Mike?
Oh, Greg
Oh,
Rodriguez, Director of IT for the Nashua School. You're welcome. I'm going to speak today about the phase one of the networking for Brian McCarthy Middle School. This phase is purely just to get the internet up and running. There's going to be no wireless capability yet. It's going to be done over the summer. So this project is just going to bring full internet capabilities to the entire school and all the closets that are in there. So I believe there are 11 closets in the school, and so they'll be outfitted, assuming there's completed construction in the area because of construction. So the IT department solicited 5 bids from IntraSystems, Telephone Network Technologies, also known as TNT, Connection, Red A, and IT Insiders. The winning bid was from IntraSystems for the amount of $470,741.65. And this project is going to commence as soon as we get the network in and both
That amount again?
$470,741.65. Yes.
We have a motion to award bid for the networking quotes InterSystems in the amount of $470,741.65.
I'll make the motion, but I have a question. Thank you.
Ms. Raymond made the motion. Are there any questions?
Thank you. So this is just for the hardwiring of the network.
So the school is already wired.
Okay.
This is connecting everything together. So this is making everything. So it's different than installing those up there. These are actually what gets fed from the actual switches and and it's actually installed.
Right. And then you said over the summer there'll be more work to do wireless. Will that be an additional cost on top
Yeah,
of
that'll be
this?
an additional cost. So that's we're going to go for the E-rate program for that. So there'll be a discount rate provided.
I like lower costs than we anticipated. That's nice.
And for everybody,
I didn't mean to interrupt. You had a thought going.
I was just going to say that how many people know that we ran the fiber Nashua High School south all the way across town.
Right, so that was a company called Comtract to approve that months ago. They bring the wire to the school. This goes from there, affects everything. If we wanted to get this done ahead of time, we would have liked to wait rate, but we need this capability to do commissioning on the security system. That's lead time for that.
Any other question? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Sean?
Okay, this one I actually spoke about already during administrator comments. So the dates are in your package. You take a look at that. Let me know if there are any concerns or with any other calendars you might have.
Big changes are like we did this year, Thanksgiving, Christmas, put up. Okay, is that John?
All set.
Sorry.
Oh,
Oh, me.
Raymond.
Is the August date going to conflict to Nashua goes back to school again? I know. I don't think
Who selected the date for that yet?
It's usually the Thursday before school starts.
Let's say it.
So 8-month lead time to maybe adjust it. I think last year, what did we do this summer? Did we just bump it back?
There is one other conflict that Donna pointed out. One of the meeting dates have a special, the same one as the Board of Alderman meeting. Let's double check that. They've got the dates first, so we can go over that.
Okay.
Get everybody the right date. Okay. All set, Sean?
All set.
All right. Request for additional funds.
Before we get to that, Alderman, do we want to do the PCCO for Pennachuck dehumidification?
Oh, yes, yes,
PCCO number
yes, yes.
16?
Okay, we approved the PCO for dehumidification at Pennachuck, and now we have the PCCO.
Correct. So, to Alderman Dowd's point, so this is PCCO number 16. This is comprised of the previous approved PCOs. So this would be for the PR 65R, which is the dehumidification for the North Edition, South Edition. So this is for Pennachuck Middle School in the value of $1,899,045.
So I'll need a motion to approve PCCO number 16 in the amount of $1,899,045. Olin Wilshire made the motion. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I'm going to start this off when we get into the work. I'm going to turn it over to Harvey, but this has to do with the two elementary. Next line. When we do any of the school projects, get the desires on the construction project, the Board of Education, and then we get the funds required. Think that we'll get preliminary costs, get a bond, basically meets the preliminary ideas. Then we do a formal design with the architect, and they do the formal design, and then the construction manager does costing, and we so we have the concept of the design, we approve the anticipated funding, hire an architect, hire a construction, price the design. And when we do that, there are always some items that we put aside as alternatives so that we match funding with the GMP. There are some items that get to the end of the project, plug in. Already done some of those. Next. So the funding for the project, when we put this together, was initial project was 17 million in ESSER funds, and then did a bond city 16 million. So the total project cost pulls together was 13 million. We had 17 million in ESSER funds available. Board of Aldermen passed the 16 million, and that funding covered the next. So the construction manager design was evaluated by Harvey. Estimated cost 50 million. There were some items we had listed as alternatives that make fit. If the funding was available at the end of the project, we had them by PCOs done in a case. GMP funding met the desired end scope of the project. The alternative items were desired not required. Next. So as you've all become familiar with an engineering term, unknown unknowns. So as we get into the project, found out that the school department only had $12.5 million put into the project. This reduced available funding to $28.5 million. Discuss how that came about. We'll go into how we fix things.
Yeah, so just going back, I think realize we committed the 12.5. I think we were hoping to commit the full amount. And that was the difference. So from the first number, from the commitment from the school department, to the second number, it was the 12.5 was actually what we had available in ESSER, and we were hoping to glean or see some savings in other projects that would be committed here into this project. As the other projects were moving forward, those savings weren't there, so we weren't able to commit the full amount and only be able to commit the 12.5. So when we first went into the bond, we were hoping to have that full amount of the 15 or 17 million dollars through all the other projects. We really only have 12.5 million available.
Fairness to the school department, you had 3 different bundles of ESSER funds. Requirements and the allocation of those funds is very, very complex as well. All right, next slide. So, start off with a $4.5 million we have to make. Get to that at the end of the presentation. The other thing, ran into a couple other unknowns. I'm over to Harvey.
And so one of the original alternate items that we had defined when we were going for the GMP approval was roof replacements at both schools. And the current scope that is owned by Harvey is to do all the patching and flashing at all the new mechanical equipment that EEI does install. We also have a new roof that will be going in at the front entry canopy. But to Alderman Dowd's point, one of the prospective alternates was to do sort of a pseudo roof replacement to provide a similar thing to what we did on some of the flat roofs over at Pennachuck Middle School, which would buy us essentially, or the school district, another 20 or so years. Get a new roof warranty, a new membrane on the roof. As we got further into the project and had a abatement subcontractor come out to review the roofs, what we found was that this roof has actually been re-roofed already in the past. So as Ken's pointing to, there's 2 layers of existing roofing, and one of those layers is tar and gravel, which is, a very old product that was done back in the 70s and earlier on. Very heavy, and then that was overlaid by a more modern roof style, which is the insulation cover board and a rubber membrane, as they call it. So once we identified that, what you find is when you do a re-roof of an existing roof, you cannot then roof it a third time. You have to then strip it down to the metal deck and do a full replacement of that roof.
The code.
Correct. And I think, one of the biggest things here, and, Miss Raymond, you may have seen it in the building. There are roof leaks prevalent throughout both of these structures. With the heavy rain event that we received earlier this week, we had a multitude of calls for various areas in the building, areas that we have not touched that are leaking actively. So we have gone through, we have priced it out, and as represented at the bottom, it is approximately $2 million to replace the roofs at both schools. And any comments or questions on that?
1 million.
Correct. So 2 million total.
Any questions on the roof? Called the test the other day. Sure got one.
Yes, we did.
Found we're all leaking.
So some of the other items that had been identified at the start of the project and some that we've identified as we've been working on the project. So as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, both schools have existing playgrounds. And both of these playgrounds are exposed to the adjacent wood line. There is no perimeter fencing. There is the ability for trespassers to get into that playground, and there are neighborhoods adjacent to both of these schools.
Security has advised us that it's an issue with students at the elementary level being able to run into the woods or have somebody in the woods come into the playground. So this is a security issue.
Correct. And then item number 2 on this list, so in the top left-hand corner, that picture there, so at Birch Hill, there's actually a very, very steep grade on the majority of the sidewalk. And as you can see from that image, there are no ADA tip downs providing handicap access to the front entry of that building. There are ADA tip downs that are very far down the length of the sidewalk, but you have to wheel yourself up a significant distance up a steep grade to get to that building. With doing some of those replacements, we would also have to do the replacements of the curbing at those sidewalk assemblies. And then that requires some of the milling and paving, which is very similar to what we did over at the Fairgrounds Middle School in that front entry, milling and paving, doing new curbing and sort of bringing that up to a fresh new look without a full reconstruction of that site. And item number 4, so one of the unknown unknowns that we did identify on this, and you can see this in the bottom left-hand corner. So the way that the portables had to go in at Birch Hill actually required us to remove the site sign that labels the building, and they put messages and everything up on that sign for events at the school. So that was an unknown unknown. In order to get those portables into their spots, we had to remove that sign and bring the portables directly across that you see. So the total cost for some of those exterior improvements between the two schools is $700,000 total for both schools. Jumping into some of the interior improvements. So item number 1 in the top left-hand corner, you can see this picture of one of the existing windows at the very top of this is the split level staircase on the two schools. And as Ken's pointing to up there, and you can see me standing there taking this picture a few months back, uh, the gasketing is completely worn out on these windows. There is flashing and everything below that is actively leaking, and you can see the leaks present in that staircase. So this was an item that was identified early on, but was pulled out as an alternate as we went in for the GM approval. Item number 2, so the classroom folding partitions in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the condition of the existing folding partitions. And not only is their condition degraded, but additionally, these do not offer the sound benefits that the new partitions offer. So what we're finding is these rooms are largely being used as one active space, whereas they are designed to be 2 separate classrooms. So they're losing some of that functionality as a result of those existing systems. Item number 3, in the top right-hand corner, you can see there's a lot of old abandoned heating equipment. When the buildings were originally identified, constructed, electric heat was coming about. So there are existing electric heaters that have been abandoned throughout the building, and they propose really a safety hazard, a lot of sharp edges, a lot of broken parts. So those have also been identified as a potential replacement. Item number 4, so the bidirectional antenna that we've done in all of the other schools. This is a fire department requirement to ensure that they have proper cell service access to the structures. Item number 5 is a data rack. So there's an existing data rack in the media center closet, and there's some very heavy demolition that has to take place directly above that to facilitate some of EEI's mechanical infrastructure installation. We also identified some unforeseen asbestos abatement that is directly below those data racks. So what we've identified here is providing the proper protection and the removal of the sensitive electronic components to allow us to complete.
Discuss several alternatives. This best that get all of the work done.
Item number 6, so in all of the previous schools, for instance, at Pennachuck, there's a computer lab in the center of the building. They're typically provided with a supplemental cooling system because they are housed with sensitive electronics that need to be properly conditioned to ensure the full lifespan of those items. And what we've identified, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, the existing systems are past their operational life cycle, and they need to be replaced. Item number 7 is within Birch Hill, and this was an unknown unknown. There is a radon mitigation system within this building that was installed some point in the past. It was an unknown unknown that we identified as we started performing demolition on the space. So we worked closely with Matt's team here to come up with the best plan of action to proceed with current course of work. However, at the back half of the project, Matt's team will be going back through to test the radon levels out the entire facility. to ensure that they are within check. If in the event that they were not, Matt would have to go back through the school to re-tie in some of those radon risers and get them operational to make sure the radon levels were checked. So while those funds not be required, we would need to identify an allowance to complete that work in the event that it were required.
Basically, when we do the radon testing at the end, still radon, and with other connections, radon levels are so low, we don't need the mitigation system. Not going to do this extra work, but we're also not taking out the existing radon equipment that's there. We're just going to leave it there in case it ever came up again. Pay to have it ripped out, possibly use it later. It's going to stay in.
Correct. And then item number 8 on this list is some of the speaker selections that were made during design. It was identified that there were, due to some manufacturer updates, incompatibility with some of the existing systems. So we worked with the school district to define the proper speakers that need to be provided for those. That is item number 8. So the total cost for all of these items between the two schools is $950,000. And the last group of items here is gymnasium improvement. So many of these items were slated as alternates. So for instance, the refinishing of the gymnasium floor, as you can see, we did cover the gymnasium floor with temporary plywood protection to ensure that the integrity of the floor remains intact. However, as you can imagine, when we pull that up, the existing state of that floor is going to need to be refinished similar to what we've done at all of the previous projects. Item number 2, Jamie had worked early on in the design process to identify a ceiling acoustic treatment. At these schools, there's no acoustical decking within the gymnasium, so the sound is very loud when it's being used as an active gymnasium space. There are sound panels that will be provided on the walls, but this is sound panels at the deck level to really alleviate those noise concerns. And then item number 3 and 4 are basketball hoop replacement and the new gymnasium. The total cost for these between the two schools is $350,000.
The other thing, this became an alternative when we were looking at funding. All the other elementary schools that we've done in the district, we have done all this work on them, turn the gym to be as functional as possible. It's also used extensively by the city for biddy basketball, so we feel it's prudent from an equity standpoint from all the other elementary schools that we've touched that these gyms take care of the function possible. Okay, so I'm going to ask for questions on all of the changes that we just talked about, but what I'm going to ultimately need is request for on 4.5 million to cover SF shortfall, 2 million for both roof replacement, 2 million for quiet alternative, including soft cost. Some of the numbers you saw with the construction costs, there are soft costs. Comes up 8.5. Motion. Is there any questions on any of the work we just talked about? Sullivan?
Thank you. I have a few questions on the ESSER. I'm going to start with the ESSER funds and I'll work my way down. On the first slide, it said we're going to get 17 million in ESSER funds. Now we have 12.5. It's unclear as to the reason. Is it that we just didn't get the 17 million for this project? Were we short funding, or did the money go elsewhere for other projects?
The money was allocated in different projects, so we were hoping to come up with the 17 million. But when we realized the cost of other projects, we only had 12.5 that could be dedicated to the construction costs.
Are they other building projects, or are they other?
It could be So as mentioned earlier, we had ESSA 2 and ESSA 3 grants, but it could have been staffing, it could have been construction costs. So we were hoping for savings in different areas or positions, like ESSA funds for positions that were unfilled that we could allocate the money over $100,000 or so. We didn't realize those savings.
Are any of those other projects where those ESSER funds, are those short funded as well,
No.
or is it just this one?
It's just this.
Why this, one, not the others?
Um, I can't speak accurately why the other ones were. I mean, we in other ones there might have been a savings of 10,000 or 5,000, but obviously not $4 million.
Some of the ESSER funds we used to hire staff members, and you were under either a federal or a state mandate on ELL,
Yeah. So
and you had to hire additional people who weren't already on staff. So some of that,
Can we, questions about the project now? Are all of these changes that or additions that we're adding on to this, were these things that you uncovered as you got into the schools and you realized that, oh, the roof's not good, now we have to update the roof?
So it's sort of, and Ken, feel free to jump, sort of a combination thereof. The majority of these items, the vast majority of them, such as the roofs, were items that we had identified at the start of the project. And to all the Dowd's point, they were pulled out as alternates. All 2, 3, 4, and 5 was a series of deferred alternates. The vast majority of the items that you do see on this list are items that we had identified as potential alternates. They had to be taken out toward the end of the project in budget.
Overall, just now onto the financials, because I was looking at some of these in anticipation of the discussion tonight, and I noticed, just going to pick one, Franklin Street School, looks like we have a remaining balance of 281,000. A larger question is, at this point of the project where we are with schools, renovations, Franklin Street School, all of it together, are we safe at this point? What I want to find out is, what are we forecasting right now to be over or at budget with the project? Is there any money that we can take from other projects where we didn't, for instance, here, 281,000 left over? I mean, can we push it to there just to kind of lessen the blow on the amount of money that we borrow, because our owing costs are higher now?
I don't know Franklin Street exactly in the January meeting. Yes, there'll be over 200,000 left. But the only way this project, Board of Aldermen has to transfer the bonding authority, this project, to the elementary school project. So we'll be looking at that. We'll also be looking, we have left McCarthy School, can't transfer them later. I've already talked to John Griffin, and he wants us to go ahead with bonding, and then if we transfer the project, just bond this, all of this.
So we would have to then change the bonding resolution in the other ones to allow that money to flow into this.
Yes. That close the Alderman shift the money. In the middle school project, we have the money set up so we can transfer between 3 schools without going back to the Board of Aldermen. But you're going to transfer it from these elementary projects or Franklin Street. That's the inaction of the Board of.
Just to answer your previous question about did we know about these, I think Brendan did a good job of running through all of these items. Early on in the GMP process, we worked with district and Harriman, our Harvey internal team, and we put together a list of those items. But now that we're in the space and we've been able to do some further investigation and really get a handle on what that scope actually is and get refreshed pricing, this is why we're bringing it forward to the.
You have a question on the price. Those numbers look pretty exact. How recent is is that? I mean, are there any more surprises around the corner?
No, so I have been working very closely with Mr. Smith over the last few months, and I have been chasing down pricing for about 3 months now. So all of that pricing has been collected within the last about a month and a half. All of it was finalized, reviewed with Alderman Dowd and Mr. Smith prior to compiling here. And the reason for the sort of round numbers is as we said, it does include soft costs for additional testing services and various items. And that is the justification for sort of the rounded number to get to that.
Have money left over, 8.5, exactly how much? Don't go back, addition to the fund again. So 8.5 million, if we have amount left over, then we can to another, just not bonded, either one. Well, but can't budget any, all the unknown unknowns. I mean, price, like, sure, we have the money to cover these items. Are there some that we not 8K requirement? Yeah, we could. Fire department requirement. Certain issue, the fencing. Those are things that all after we enter. Any other questions? Yes.
I was just wondering about the roof, how the the roofs had already been redone. Is there any record of that we had? You know, you said at like some indeterminate point. I would think that when they do big projects like that to the school, that there would be some kind of records that would know exactly what we're getting into. Started to school.
They had several people like John's position over the years.
Yeah.
They don't keep records on every school as to what was and wasn't done precisely. We didn't know that there were 2 layers on this roof. The roofing boring is tight, and the original roof probably not a good roof to begin with. So by code, we have to strip it down, strip the entire roof down, put a new roof. That'll be good for 20, 30 years. And but at these 2 schools, the storm the other day, they're leaking. We're putting a lot of money into these schools. We don't want to get damaged by water, so we want to get done as
Oh yeah, of course not. So since Mr. Smith's been in charge of keeping records and stuff like that, are we doing a better job for future JSSBC?
I believe so. I mean, we obviously
Yes.
knew the age of the current roof. That was done the early 90s. And I was unaware of the early roof underneath that. That was 1960 something. But these rubber roof membranes, I mean, we always get a 20-year warranty on them. They typically will last you 30 years though, but we're even beyond that at this point, and it's starting to show with the leaks that we're getting.
a lot of school districts are finding out that take care of schools cost you a lot of money later. I've heard Manchester, they get done their school project, $900 million. Do you think that's going to their tax? They just proved 300,000 two schools, new middle school and renovation of an elementary school. Starting, you don't take care of your buildings, then you pay more a lot later.
Thank you. I just had a quick question about the floors. Did you say the floors are going to be the same as the other elementary schools?
They will be refurbished and made like other schools.
Elementary or
Elementary,
Okay, I was just, are those hardwood? I don't
they're
know.
hardwood.
They are. So same as the middle?
It'll. Hey,
Yes.
Check, did we replace the?
It is. So there was a series of different things. Fairgrounds, we replaced it. Pennachuck, we refinished it. So this would be the exact same thing as what we did at Pennachuck Middle
Refinish.
School.
Oh,
New
no,
line work.
These schools city basketball, a lot of use. All the other elementary schools done, site, fairground,
Elm Street.
ton of, always pick gyms up. We're already getting pressure.
I think you covered it. So Broad Street and Sunset Heights, we refinished the floors. If anybody was around at that point, you looked at them beforehand, they were like a dirty brown color. And then they really brought them back to life. It was a nice white wood color. Let Street Fairgrounds in Charlotte, we did the same thing. Emmer Street, that gym was brand new when we built it.
Ilio,
I just have a quick question. I know that the playground at Maine Dunstable is fairly new. They replaced it, I believe, a year ago. At that time, it didn't occur to anyone that they needed to put a fence around the,
it's fairly new because of things that are going on in the,
so it wasn't something we worried about so much a year and a half. Just wondered.
like the baller game, security.
It was actually an issue raised by the principals. And it wasn't so much concern about people infiltrating, but they have runners. They like to run into the woods. And so they asked that we curtail that. There is a fence at Birch Hill between the parking lot and the playground. Main Dunstable, there is not a fence.
Nothing.
I think it's only a 3-foot.
Only a 3-foot, and it's
Any other questions?
I was just to say, as a kid that went to Birch Hill, I think there were a handful of times that teachers had to come out to the woods to find me because I was stuck looking for salamanders. And is it the Stabiles that live back there? Like I just walk into their backyards, like Jen, come back. We
Pretty
need
easy.
fences for kids.
There's a lot, especially Birch Hill. There's a lot of, well, actually both, a lot of wood.
I think both of those schools have significant walking paths in those woods. Like I know behind Birch Hill, the land behind there is cooperatively owned by all of the homeowners. So there's a part of the deed. Everybody owns 1/68 of those woods, and there's trails all through it. So I'm
Have
sure.
all those kids out there to make it easier so that somebody goes running in the woods, the teacher that's watching them is gonna have to run into the woods and all the other.
Right. So I just for Birch Hill, at least we should probably check the deed information on access to the trails. Like, do we need a
We have a
gate
lot of-
somewhere?
We have a lot of land on Birch Hill. It helps us, the neighbor. For other reasons, I've found
Oh, good.
not an issue. In fact, one of the things we're thinking possibly is putting the solar up, is behind Birch Hill.
On that
it
hill?
goes way back. A lot of land behind that pool at the hill. Put solar on it. And that's the
I would say that we're just looking to fence in the playground, not looking to go out into the forest at all. Just be right on the current perimeter.
Well, speaking of the solar panels, if I know we were talking about doing or not doing the roof a couple of months ago and talking about putting solar on the roof, but we would only be able to do it if we put a new roof on because we wouldn't be able to hold the weight of them. Would the new roof now be able to hold the weight of some solar panels?
Jamie.
There are sections, it's not actually the roofing that limits the solar panels, it's the structural components of it. There are sections on there that could accommodate some solar panels. I think we reviewed that, many, many moons ago now, but it still would need significant structural upgrades to do the entire roof. And I think we're well beyond that point because the interior renovations have already been ongoing. So it'd be a major undertaking to try to get the structural and reinforcing done now.
Since we have the land, putting them on the ground with a fence around it, not an issue. And it's totally up to the solar company because it's a public-private partnership. They pay all the costs. Any other questions on the motion? Somebody make the motion yet? Wants to make the motion to ask the chairman of the Joint Special School Building Committee to initiate the legislation to add 8.5 million resolution R 22066.
I'll make that motion.
Motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. So, just so you know, everybody downtown already is aware that it's coming. Even some of the old, they're all here. Well, this will have it on a bond put together. The first meeting in January, I hope. Have to have a public hearing. That would be January. Public hearing, and that would be on the that'll be the night of that budget meeting, and then it'll go to the back to the board following night, and okay. So some of the meetings just for the alderman. All right, invoices. John,
Okay, invoices for tonight. We have 4 invoices from Contract Corporation totaling $136,648.28. Here again, the company is running the wire from the South High School to McCarthy. We have invoices from EEI, one for Birch Hill and one for Maine Dunstable, totaling $787,972.23. We have 2 months worth of invoices from Harriman. They didn't get the invoices to us for November in time. So that's for, 7 invoices. For McCarthy, Franklin, Birch Hill, and Maine Dunstable, totaling $70,677.78. 3 invoices from Harvey for work at McCarthy, Birch Hill, and Maine Dunstable, totaling $2,887,551.97. 1 invoice from Hayner Swanson, the company that's watching over the drainage and whatnot at McCarthy. That invoice was for $935.72. 3 invoices from Page Street Leasing. They're providing the ground storage units. Birch Hill and Maine Dunstable totaling $305. 4 invoices from Turner Building Science Design. They are our commissioning agent for HVAC systems at Birch Hill, Maine Dunstable, and McCarthy Middle School. Those total $21,598.34. And finally, 1 invoice from Finesse Associates, our transportation consultant, for work at Pennachuck of $464.70. Those total by school: Franklin Street, $2,667.67. For the middle school project, $2,115,909.73. Birch Hill, Maine Dunstable, $1,520,943.69. Nothing for the security vegetable this month. Those all total $3,639,521.09.
I'll need a motion to approve the invoices for the Franklin Street of $2,667.67. The middle school project invoices $2,115,909.73. Birch Hill, Maine Dunstable invoices $1,520,943.69, for a grand total of $3,639,521.09. Like to make that
So moved.
move, Emilio. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, yeah, we're in comments by committee members. Comment. I want to mention that we've had some, that storm the other day was a test of all of our roof. Sure about the others, but I know Pennachuck issue investigate. Just repaired the one along the gym back go where this other leak coming from, but find it, fix it. We need the others. Always an issue. Let it go 30 years. Can't expect intact. And well, I mean, work. Some of you. Anyway, any other comments? All right, you don't need a non-public. Do I have a motion? Motion on the floor is to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 8:11 p.m. Thank you, everyone.